your host, Kenneth Dean, along with my co-host, Chris Kaye. And this week, we're back with Motorhead's Greatest Hits Volume 2.
As stated in the last episode, I mentioned that we broke up Motorhead into two greatest hits lists simply because, while a lot of rock and metal fans know the early years of Motorhead, there's some really good stuff that I feel like gets overlooked in their catalog from the 90s on. Last episode, we gave you Volume 1 with everything up to 1992. This week, it's Volume 2 with everything from Bastards up to their final album, Bad Magic. As with all greatest hits debates, we'll choose our favorite 15 songs, and whichever songs are duplicated make the list. For those that don't match up, Kenneth and I will debate to make the ultimate Motorhead Greatest Hits Volume 2.
To hear what we came up with for Volume 1, download the episode from your favorite podcast platform. And while you're at it, click the subscribe button and you'll get our latest episode every time it comes out. So, Chris, here we are for Motorhead's Greatest Hits Volume 2. Volume 1 had a lot of good songs on it. So Volume 2, as you just expressed, has got a lot of songs that probably a lot of people don't know.
I think if you're a Motorhead fan and you've followed their career, you're going to know these songs. But there, like I said, there's a lot of people that are just not as familiar. Maybe they're cursory fans or only heard the stuff up to the early 90s. But what I think is really interesting about their career post early 90s, so like we're doing from Bastards on, is Lemmy really did start to put in some more variation in the style. It wasn't just the same song over and over again. And that's no slight because we talked about some really interesting different stuff on the first one, but there's a different dynamic here too, because for the most part this was all the same band. Wurzel's on 2 albums, and then he left the band at that point, and then from that point on, it's Phil Campbell and Mickey D. So it's a 3-piece band for most of these albums. So they really built some chemistry, really did some great things, and due to the time period, with grunge kind of popping up and rock and roll kind of dropping off the map, and beyond now into the later decades of the 2010s, 2020s. Unfortunately, rock just never got back to where it was before. So this is a really good opportunity to not really deep dive, but kind of go into more of what I would say are the deeper cuts of Motorhead's catalog that are just excellent.
Yeah, doing the research for this, I would consider myself probably more of a cursory Motorhead fan. I really like some of the earlier stuff, but this era, there was nothing really there. I knew what Motorhead was like, so I was like, oh yeah, it's another Motorhead album. There's nothing for me that through time, as let's say for instance, it's 2010. Oh, well, this album came out and had this one really good song. There was nothing like that for me, at least. Sometimes there's a song here and there that just pops up, but it wasn't one of those that really, stuck out for me. The only time, it might come up later, the only time that I really remember hearing Motorhead was when watching wrestling and they would sing the game from Triple H's theme song. That was like, oh yeah, okay, Motorhead's around, but I don't know. I just never got I just saw them releasing album after album after album, and just never really picked them up and said, oh, let me check this one out. But we're here to change all that tonight because this is Volume 2 of their greatest hits, and we're going to basically let everyone know what we think are their best songs from 1993 forward. So, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Okay. So I'm just going to start chronologically like usual, and that's starting off with Bastards. I've got Born to Raise Hell and Don't Let Daddy Kiss Me. Then off of Overnight Sensation, I've got Civil War. From Snakebite Love, I've got Assassin and Dead and Gone. From We Are Motorhead, I've got One More Fucking Time. From Hammered, I've got Walk a Crooked Mile, Down the Line, and Voices from the War. Then I've got the single, which also did appear on Hammered, The Game, Triple H's theme from WWE. I've got from Kiss of Death, Trigger, and God Was Never on Your Side. From Motorizer, I've got The Thousand Names of God. From Aftershock, I've got Heartbreaker. And from Bad Magic, I've got Thunder and Lightning.
Okay, we got some similarities. There's a lot more similarities on this than I thought there were going to be. So that's a good thing because I sure as hope didn't want to go 15 for 15 or different songs. That would have been one hell of a freaking debate. All right, so my list as follows, 1 through 15, chronological order somewhat. All right, number 1, Don't Let Daddy Kiss Me from Bastards. 2, Born to Raise Hell from Bastards. 3, I Am the Sword from Bastards. Then there's Sacrifice from Sacrifice. Overnight Sensation from Overnight Sensation. Assassin from Snakebite Love. We Are Motorhead from the We Are Motorhead album. One More Fucking Time from We Are Motorhead. Walk a Crooked Mile from Hammered. In the Name of Tragedy from Inferno. Life's a Bitch from Inferno. Smiling Like a Killer from Inferno. Number 13, Rock Out from Motorizer. Number 14, Going to Mexico from Aftershock. And number 15, Shoot Out All of Your Lights from Bad Magic.
All right, so looks like we don't have a tremendous amount of crossover. We only have about 5 songs, but you've picked some good stuff for sure. A few of the songs that you have were maybe on my larger list that I had to condense down. So, ones that I would maybe put in my top 20, but I didn't put in my top 15. But our crossover is Born to Raise Hell and Don't Let Daddy Kiss Me from Bastards, Assassin from Snakebite Love, and One More Fucking Time from We Are Motorhead, and Walk a Crooked Mile from Hammered. So we've definitely got some debating to do.
Absolutely. So to go over again for everyone out there how we're going to do this debate. First round, we each pick a song that we want to keep from our list. Second round, we keep a song. We actually drop a song from our list. Then third round, we pick a song from the other person's list that we want to keep. Round 4, we pick a song from the other person's list that we're going to drop, and then we repeat so on until we're done. When we get down to like the last 4 songs, there's usually only one spot, so it ends up being a song that we want to drop. I think it is somewhere around there.
In this instance, I think though, because there's 10 that we have to choose, we're going to end up, even. We're not going to have to fight for that last spot. It seems like so.
I'm fighting. I don't know about you.
Okay. Well, I started on the last episode, so why don't you start off on this one?
All right. Song that I want to keep from my list is going to be We Are Motorhead. I think any song that you write about yourself usually is I would think is going to be a good song. I mean, you're not going to make a shitty song about yourself. And this
that
one
would
is
be
pretty
interesting,
cool.
though.
Say what?
That would be interesting, though. Like, write a really crappy song about yourself.
I mean, hell, if you're
what's that song? I'm a creep. I'm a loser.
Oh yeah, from what's his face? Beck. Yeah. But so I picked Motorhead. That's my choice.
All right. For mine, I think I'm going to go from Kiss of Death. I'm going to pick God Was Never on Your Side. It's a really cool track, and it's definitely from their later career. I don't see that you had anything from that album, but I actually really like that album. I think there was a lot of melodic influences kind of entering their playing at this point, and it's really impressive. That and the other song that I had on my list, Trigger, definitely need to check those out if you haven't heard those songs from that album.
What was difficult for me in choosing some of the songs from for this episode. It's not that there weren't enough good songs on an album per se. It was a matter more for me of not wanting to be repetitious of the types of songs that were on the list. While at the same time trying to choose songs that really were standout differences for the albums. And like, there were some albums that literally you could tell they were in the same key. You could tell it was the same, the same, like 5 minutes later it was recorded because it sounds exactly the same. And there was not a lot of disparity from song to song.
I felt that way about Sacrifice, where Sacrifice felt like almost like one song keep going throughout the whole album. Yeah,
and in that way, Kiss of Death was like that a little bit for me. The stuff more towards the end was kind of like that for me in some cases, but not all cases. So it was just a little bit difficult to try and say, okay, yeah, I'm going to pick this song. Well, this song sounds exactly like that song.
To a degree, I get where you're coming from, Kiss of Death, but like God Was Never on Your Side starts off with that really soft acoustic part. I think it's like a minute that gets into the song, and then it turns into a softer, rock song. It's very different than anything else on the album.
Yeah, no, that one was definitely different. And the thing about that song is I already had two songs that I considered to be very similar to that. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that, And now, it's okay because we have three of them. It's not a big deal. It actually adds some diversity into the list, especially since Lemmy was very attuned to putting those kinds of songs in there, after a certain point in his career. So basically after this 1992 time period, or 93, he threw those in there, and it was kind of like, whoa, this is different for Lemmy,
Yeah, but I mean, even for instance, like, so you have Don't Let Daddy Kiss Me, which is a softer song, right? Mm-hmm. But the instrumentation's different. So we've still got some pretty good variety in that regard. Right,
and then wasn't it One More Fucking Time is kind of...
Yeah, but even then, it does sound pretty different from God Was Never on Your Side. At least the instrumentation and stuff goes. Yeah. So
it's funny because it's just a song called One More Fucking Time.
Yeah, right.
Just leave it up to Lemmy.
I really like that album too. We Are Motorhead, I think, is a bit of an underrated album as a whole.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like I said, what you could throw any of these albums on and enjoy yourself from beginning to end because everything has kind of got that beat. It was, from the difficulty for me was finding that one standout track. So, but I think we're going to do a good job of pulling these out, and definitely showcasing some of the better songs from this time period. Okay, so now it's time to pick a song from our list that we are okay with dropping. So, This is tough, but I'm going to go ahead and pull this one out, and the only reason being is because I have two other songs from this album that I think are actually more diverse and better. So I'm going to drop Life's a Bitch.
Okay. I mean, Life's a Bitch is not a bad track. It's a little bluesy mixed with, the typical Motorhead rock song. But yeah, there's probably actually some couple better bluesy songs on here. So I understand.
All right, so now it's your turn to drop one off your list.
All right. I'm kind of leaning towards dropping Dead and Gone. I think it's a great song. But we also have, like we mentioned, we have a lot of Motorhead's softer side already on here. There's only 15 songs to choose. So I'm thinking about that one. And I'm also thinking about Heartbreaker from Aftershock. If I'm going to lean towards what I think is maybe the weakest song on my list, it might be Heartbreaker. So for now, I think I'm actually going to remove Heartbreaker.
All right. That's the one thing too about what we're doing here in this is that we're going to end up dropping songs like one song off an album, or like the two of us combined will have, one song off that album, and you have a different song, and some albums are not going to be represented. It's just the way it is.
It's true. Yeah.
There's a lot of albums that they have a lot of similar songs. Which one's better than the other? So it is definitely an interesting take on this.
Yeah, we're never going to just put a song on just to have a representation there when it's not technically a better song. We're trying to choose what we would consider their best of their best. So there's no point in just putting on a song just to have it from an album.
Right, exactly. All right, so now it's time to pick a song from the other person's list that we want to keep. And looking at your list. Okay, so after reviewing the list of songs that you have on your list here, I think I'm going to go ahead and keep Civil War.
Okay.
It's off of Overnight Sensation. I have a song from Overnight Sensation, the title track, on my list. We'll see if it keeps it, if we keep it. But right for now, Civil War is what I'm keeping from yours.
Okay, sounds good. So I need to choose one from your list now.
Right.
And let's see. That's a tough one because there's a few really good riffs that you got here. Let's see. It's always tough when we've got a bunch of songs off of one album because it feels like we're being, we're not giving it enough chance, but at the same time, sometimes that album's just really good. I really like I Am the Sword. I think that's a really cool riff. It's a high energy one, a lot of fun. Rock Out is also a really good track from Motorizer. And kind of thinking about Shoot Out All Your Lights as well from Bad Magic. I think that's a really good track. If I'm being 100% honest, I kind of want to pick I Am the Sword. I think it's a really, really high energy, fun riff. Would be great for, seeing in a concert setting, which is kind of what we put in our mentality here. So, yeah, I think we can go with I Am the Sword.
All right. Well, I Am the Sword it is. Okay, so we're up to that point where we're making difficult decisions. Now we have to remove one from our list, from the other person's list, excuse me.
From the other person's list, yeah.
So I have to look at your list, and I have to remove a song. And that's a difficult one to do. In this list, the difficulties that we have expressed several times now is we have a lot of albums, only 15 songs, but there's a lot of good songs on certain albums and basically average songs on other albums. So in this particular case, this is going to be a difficult one, but I think because we have other songs from this album already on here, I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to drop Dead and Gone.
Okay. I mean, there's other similar songs to Dead and Gone as well. Dead and Gone has a very distinct similarity to God Was Never on Your Side. So I totally get dropping it. But I think both are great tracks and definitely check them out.
Absolutely. All right, it's your turn to drop one off of my list.
All right. Again, always a tough decision because I do enjoy a lot of the stuff that you had picked as well. But for me, I think I'm going to drop In the Name of Tragedy. I think it's one of the more generic tracks. It's got a cool riff, but I don't think it's as strong as some of the similar stuff that we've already got on this list. So, sorry, in the Name of Tragedy, we hardly knew ye.
All right. Well, you know what? Just stick a dagger in my heart, why don't you? No, just kidding. I get that, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, we got to pick songs. So, I mean, that's just going to make the list that much better when we realize that we've gotten some really good songs on here. Although I'm pretty sure someone out there is going to beef about the fact we didn't put, that one song on Alter Bridge's Greatest Hits. What was the name of the song again?
Oh man,
it was off of One Day Remains.
Is Open Your Eyes. One of their Open Your Eyes, one of their biggest hits. Yeah. We didn't even put it on the list. I mean, this is our list, though.
I know. It was just so funny that their biggest hit, or one of their biggest hits, is not on our list. Yeah,
I mean, there's so many bands that we want to do these for, right? And there's I guarantee you, there's always going to be that problem of, we didn't pick the song that you guys love, or it's always going to be something like that.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, now it's the time to pick a song from our list again that we want to keep.
It's my favorite part because I know, I know my song is getting on the list.
Right, exactly. So this one, I'm trying to keep, we've got a lot of songs. I mean, we got 3 songs off of Bastards. We've got 2 songs off of We Are Motorhead, right?
Yes.
And then we've got...
I think that's the only ones with overlap right now.
So, but I'm going to go ahead in this particular case. I want to keep Overnight Sensation.
Okay. I mean, it's a song that you can kind of sing along with in a concert. Mm-hmm. It's pretty easy to recognize, but it does have it's not just a simple song either. It has a little bit of layering to it. So, yeah, I'm good with that.
Alrighty, and song from your list you're going to keep.
All right, so from my list, man, it's tough because I would say Hammered is one of my favorite latter-day Motorhead albums, but I also really like Trigger off of Kiss of Death. Trigger is one of the more intricate songs that Motorhead has ever put out. I really like that riff, and it shows a different dimension to the band. While I don't think Kiss of Death is their best album, I think it has 2 really great songs that I picked from it. So it's tough though, because Hammered, a lot of people don't like Hammered in the same way, I think, because it's not the very typical Motorhead sound. It's a little bit more moody. I know that had a little bit to do with the production, everything that was going on in their personal lives, etc. But I really like it because I think some of the lyrics are a little bit deeper than some of the stuff that had come before. It was kind of a turning point for the band in that regard. And songs like Voices from the War, pretty excellent. I mean, I'm not super deep, but at the same time, putting out the emotion of, these men that go out and fight for war, men and women, that go and fight in battles and lose their lives, and was it all worth it, etc. I think it's a really excellent song. So I kind of want to pick Voices from the War. All right.
Well, that's your choice. So you get to keep Voices from the War. So what's funny about you picking this song and Lemmy and Motorhead in general is that Lemmy was a big World War II buff. He liked a lot of the memorabilia that came out of World War II. But the juxtaposition for him was that he was relatively an anti-war kind of person. He did not believe to just sending people out to war to fight wars for country. So it was kind of a weird thing, but yet at the same time, he liked getting things that were related to World War II. So it is a strange thing, but at the same time, if you know Lemmy, you kind of understand it.
Well, I mean, it is a very interesting point in history because you have the best and worst of humanity, etc. So it is, I mean, obviously it's studied, the whole History Channel for years was just World War II. it was the World War II channel. So I totally get that. And it influences the music, and you can hear a lot of lyrics over the years referring to, people senselessly giving up their lives for a cause. So there is senselessly in one regard. However, obviously there's always a reason for wars, but there's always multiple reasons for wars. And I think that's something that Lemmy covered in his lyrics where, to the simple man, to the average Joe, are these things worth it versus, the people on top that are guiding these people. So it's always interesting to hear that. And that development of bands in general, not just Motorhead, but, you go from singing about kind of simple subjects and, demons and wizards and stuff like that. And sometimes the band will take more of an evolution to real topics. Like we talked about with, on our Slayer episode many, moons ago, there was, we talked about how Slayer kind of started singing about demons and, hell and that kind of stuff. And then it became more like real topics, like real demons on Earth, the killers and things like that. So I always like to see that evolution of a band in how do they what do they focus on and what influences them to create these songs, etc. And I think Motorhead is a really good example of that kind of maturity and awakening over time.
Motorhead it's funny because they could put out an album and it's all blues based. Well, everything they do is basically blues, rock and roll based. But then they'll have a topic of a certain song which is relatively more serious than another, and then then they have a song like "Bye Bye Bitch Bye Bye," which,
Yeah,
or "Whorehouse Blues," and it's just like
they never reached the point where every song was mature,
right? Yeah, exactly,
and that's a good thing. Yeah.
All right, so now. We picked. It's your turn. No, what was that? No, that was.
I just picked Voices from the War. So,
okay, so
at this point, you need to remove one from your list.
Okay, so let's see where we're at in terms of total songs here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Am I right?
Oh yes, we have 11 filled.
We have 11 filled.
Okay.
So we have 4 more spots, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 songs for 4 more spots.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and this is one where we're taking a song off our list, correct?
That is correct.
All right, so to take song off our list, I'm going to go, after looking at my list here again, I keep staring at it this whole episode. I'm going to go take off Going to Mexico.
All right, well, yeah, I understand that. I think Aftershock is one of those albums that I like to a certain degree, but it just something kind of missing from the songwriting. I think Going to Mexico is one of the better tracks. I mean, I obviously picked Heartbreaker. That was a tough choice for me, going through those two. And even then, it was almost like there was a couple things that I kind of wished I had picked more than Heartbreaker as I started reading my list. And but Going to Mexico is a pretty fun song. I think it would be fun in a concert setting, but at the same time, I think there's better songs that kind of represent the same type of track that we have already listed. So I can agree with that.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so what are you going to drop off your list?
So, from my list, you've got Shoot Out All of Your Lights from Bad Magic, and I've got Thunder and Lightning. So, I don't know if we want to have this, have 2 songs from that album, because, I don't know, that's a tough one. Motorizer, we've both got a track that we can choose from, 1,000 Names of God, and Rock Out. And I really like Trigger. I'm kind of hoping that still makes the list. Down the line, I like the riff a lot. I don't know if it's as good as some of the other stuff that's here, though. So I'm considering dropping Down the Line. Between that and the Thousand Names of God, I'll probably drop Down the Line for now. I really like the song myself. I think it fits great on the album. Maybe not as much in the context of the, what we're doing here. So,
alrighty.
Yeah.
So that leaves us with 8 songs for how many spots now? 4 spots?
For 4 spots.
Okay. All right, so now it's a time to drop a song, or no, to keep a song from the other person's list?
Keep a song from the other person's list.
Right, okay. All right, so you keep talking about it, and you're saying that you really like the song Trigger. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that song for you.
Okay. I think that's a good choice. All right, so from yours, we've got Sacrifice, Smiling Like a Killer, Rock Out, and Shoot Out All of Your Lights. So I think from yours, I'm actually going to pick Shoot Out All of Your Lights. It's one I kind of keep bringing up. I really do like it, and it was a tough choice between that and Thunder and Lightning. But I think, honestly, I may have made the wrong choice when choosing between the two. So for now, yeah, I think I'm going to go with Shoot Out All Your Lights.
Alrighty. So that leaves us with 6 songs for 2 spots, right?
For 2 spots.
Okay. And now is the time we have to drop a song from the other person's list, correct?
That is correct.
All right. So because you picked Shoot Out the Lights, we're going to go ahead and drop Thunder and Lightning.
Okay. I mean, I don't feel like I need to explain that because we just mentioned my feelings on it as well as yours. So, all right. From your list, I think I'm going to drop, let's see. From your list, I'm going to drop Rock Out from Motorizer. I think it's an all right track, but it reminds me a lot of other stuff that they had done, especially earlier in their career. And I just don't think it stands out as much as the other 2 you have here.
Okay. All right, so now we have 4 songs for 2 spots. So in essence, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have to pick a song, and then the other, or basically we have to remove a song, and we're gonna. It comes down to the final choice of picking a song that we want to keep from our list, and that'll finalize the whole list.
Basically, yeah.
All right, so out of Sacrifice and Smiling Like a Killer, those are 2 really cool songs. But I think I'm going to go ahead and keep Smiling Like a Killer.
All right. I think that, in my opinion, is the right choice. I think Sacrifice is probably one of my least favorite Motorhead albums from this era. Just something about it just doesn't really stand out to me. The production is all right, and the song, like the track listing, is very repetitive. But Sacrifice was the standout track, but I think Smiling Like a Killer is way better.
I think so. So
all
now
right.
you have a tough choice.
I do.
Because you have 1,000 Names of God and The Game. I think I know what direction I would go in, but you're a little bit more connected to that song, The Game, than I am.
You're saying you would pick the 1,000 Names of God over The Game?
Yes, that would be the way I would go.
I'm just curious why.
I listened to The Game this morning, and I just overall didn't think it was as strong a song.
Okay. I'm leaning that direction as well myself, for a couple reasons. Technically, even though that they're the performers, it was based off of a Jim Johnson song that came before it.
That was my other reason.
And so, obviously, this is their song, but it was written by someone else. That doesn't preclude it from being part of the list because
it's not a cover technically.
Yeah, it's not a cover. We've had other people write songs. I mean, if you say that, then what about Ozzy? I mean, then he could have nothing on his list. So
wait, didn't he write the entire Bark at the Moon album?
Sure. Sure.
I mean, that's what it says.
Yeah.
I'm looking right at it. It says O. Osborne on the whole album.
But The Thousand Names of God is a really good track. And this is another... It goes kind of back to what we were saying about this is a chance for people to hear something different that maybe they've never heard before. So I think it's probably the better decision to keep on there. So that wraps up our 15.
All right, so go over what we got.
All right, so our list is Born to Raise Hell, Don't Let Daddy Kiss Me, and I Am the Sword off of Bastards, Civil War and Overnight Sensation off of Overnight Sensation, Assassin off of Snakebite Love, We Are Motorhead and One More Fucking Time off of We Are Motorhead, Walk a Crooked Mile and Voices from the War from Hammered, Smiling Like a Killer from Inferno, Trigger and God Was Never on Your Side from Kiss of Death, The Thousand Names of God from Motorizer, and finally Shoot Out All of Your Lights from Bad Magic.
Well, it sounds like a good list to me.
It is. I'm pleasantly happy with this list, and I do enjoy some of the diversity of it as well, where we've got, I think what ended up happening with a lot of Motorhead's Greatest Hits Volume 1 was a lot of the stuff was real similar in like pacing, etc. Not necessarily similar in the structure of the song, but everything was kind of go, go, go. Here we've got some variation where we've got some softer stuff, some songs that are a mix where they're soft in one part and they build up into a heavier portion, etc., and some bluesy stuff. It's so we've got a little bit more variation here.
We do definitely a lot of variation here. So now it's time to put these 15 songs into a concert set list order. Now, this is a concert that disregard the fact that it will never be played, but using those same exact words, this concert, even if the band were still alive, would never be played. Because there's just too much stuff from the old classic days that would supersede some of these songs.
Oh, for sure.
So, with that said, why don't you go ahead and start it off and give us the opening track for this concert?
All right. So to start things off, we want something kind of high energy, exciting. You know what? I think a good way to start things off would actually be Walk a Crooked Mile off of Hammered. It's not super fast, but it's got that opening guitar riff. It's one of the few that doesn't actually start off with a drum lick. So,
yeah, that's just a weird thing that started happening towards the latter day of Motorhead's career.
Well, even in their early stuff, I mean, you've got Overkill is one of their biggest hits, right? Ace of Spades. A lot of them started off with some kind of drum beat, like double bass or something like that.
Well, Ace of Spades was straight up with the guitar work. I mean, his bass guitar. Dun, 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 dun.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know why I said Ace of Spades, but yeah, there were a lot of songs that started off with drum, but this became more prevalent. You're right, like in a different way. Some kind of drum lick would start off just about every song.
And they were always pretty cool drum licks too. It's not to take anything away from Mickey D. I mean, he's a badass drummer.
No, not at all. Yeah, I just think it was an interesting thing that they started doing. But I think Walk a Crooked Mile, it's a good placement for it. It starts off with an opening track kind of feel, which is opening tracks have a distinct sound to them, which I think is a really good way to start off a concert. But it has that kind of let's get going appeal to it, so I think it's a good one to start with.
now I'm coming in with song number 2, the song right after the opener. I think in this case for me, I'm going to go ahead and put in Smiling Like a Killer.
I think it's good because of the pacing. It's a little bit faster song. So that's a good place to put it. Which typically would lead us into track 3 being a little bit slower paced, right? Something to slow it down. You go one of two ways. You go another mid-tempo or faster song, or slow it down. What are you thinking about that? I know we've got a few soft songs that we kind of need to mix up. We can't put them too close together.
I'm okay with putting in a slow song at this point. I think, though, we should hold back on Don't Let Daddy Kiss Me.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think that's a good placement yet. So
One More Fucking Time, or what's the other one?
Or God Was Never on Your Side.
Yeah, so either one of those two, whatever you pick.
Let's see. I'm kind of thinking God Was Never on Your Side, because it does have that slower portion and then it goes a little faster, a little heavier. Not really faster, but heavier, I think is the best way to put it. So I think God Was Never on Your Side is probably best for track 3.
All right, sounds fair enough. Since God Was Never on Your Side kind of slows down to basically an a cappella point for Lemmy, I think I like the slow kind of grindy bass intro for Overnight Sensation to kind of just pick up the pace again.
I'm so glad you picked that, because I was even thinking about using my veto if you didn't pick it. It's a good way to transition, because you you kind of fade out at the end of Overnight Sensation, which is doable. You know, it's not an artificial fade out. It's a just let the note play out, right? Go into the the lights go down. Next song you pick up, you have a couple choices. You can blast it out, something heavy, but you don't really have like a Ace of Spades or something like that. But then you have Overnight Sensation, a little bit slower choice, but at the same time has a catchy riff and is a good way to follow up a slower song. And has that, like you said, that slow kind of sludgy bass,
very
intro.
sludgy intro.
Yeah. I think it's a good choice.
Okay.
All right. So from there, we can keep the same pace or we can go a little faster. How about we put I Am the Sword from Bastards?
All right. You have a song that on the regular album kind of just fades for like a minute. And it's just a constant pace going down. So obviously in concert, you kind of have to end it somewhere. So I don't know if it ends abruptly, or I don't know if it's going to be one of those where you have a lot of drums and cymbals and all that stuff. So
it could always transition to the next song too.
Right.
Some bands will do that when they have fade outs at the end.
So I think a good transition would be to go into Shoot Out All the Lights with that little drum intro and that really technical stuff that Mickey's doing there.
I like that. I think it's a good placement for it. All right, so we're halfway through the main set.
Yep.
So we've got 2 softer songs. We've got some variation here. I kind of know what I want to be in the encore. I don't know what you're thinking.
I kind of have an idea, but hopefully we're on the same track. The same track.
We'll find out. And remember, we both have a veto available. So
I veto.
Let's see. Got to think about this one. Because, we're at the midpoint. There's really nothing to lose. You really can go any direction here, right?
Yep.
So, I think I'm going to pick Voices from the War. It starts off with another kind of heavy drum beat, but it's real quick and gets into the song. It's not like a long, lick that takes a while. It's, to me, it feels like it kind of needs to be in the middle ground. I think that's why they put it in its placement on the album. Great song, but it doesn't feel like it needs to be at the beginning of anything or at the end of anything. So I think it's a good placement.
Okay, I can go with that one. I think for me at this point, we have a couple of ways we can go with this. We're relatively almost 2/3 of the way through, going into this next song. How about we put in one more fucking time at this point?
Yeah, I'm good with that. So that one kind of ends on a guitar solo. A pretty good guitar solo at that. Why don't we put the 1,000 Names of God next? It's the same kind of reason why I had for Voices from the War. It's a good track, but not a beginning, not an ending. So let's get it before it gets too late into the whole thing.
Exactly. Okay. Liking it. I was going to go with, at this point, why don't we throw in Assassin?
I like it. Yeah, we don't want to put that way too late into it. We're at track 10 of 12 essentially. So, yeah, I think that's a good place for it.
Okay. So
all right.
We got 2 songs before the end of the main set.
Gotcha. Man, the thing is, I don't know if I would. Okay, we've got "Don't Let Daddy Kiss Me," right? It's a soft song, very emotional, very meaningful. I don't think that's good for an encore.
I was thinking about that. I think it is, but at the same time, you don't want to depress everybody either.
Yeah, I mean, the encore's there. Like you've finished the show. This is a very emotional song. It's about child abuse. He shopped it out to a few different artists, but there wasn't really any takers at the time, so he ended up just tracking it himself. I think it's an excellent song. It shows a different dimension to Lemmy, but I don't like the idea of putting it in an encore. Like I think it's a good song, but an encore's supposed to be like, hey, this is one like we were gonna leave, but we're back, And if you come in with a song like this, I don't think it's the right.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind
approach.
a slow song in an encore, like the middle song, but this particular song topic is just too heavy.
Yeah, I think let's go ahead and put it there at number 11. Are you good with that, or do you think maybe we should veto it somewhere in earlier?
No, I'm good with that.
Okay. So what do you want to end the main set?
All right. So ending the main set, the songs that we have left are Born to Raise Hell, We Are Motorhead, Trigger, and Civil War. Now, I kind of have an idea of what I want in the encore, at least 2 of the songs.
Yeah.
So that means that...
I think 2 of the songs are pretty clear. Like, we both agree that they should be in the encore. But the other 2...
I hope one of them, I'm pretty clear. We kind of phrased it earlier that way.
Yeah.
Based on the way the songs are structured and the way they end and the way they play out, I think to end the main set, we should go with Civil War.
Okay. I was good with that or Trigger. So I like Civil War, I think, a little better in that slot. So I'm in agreement with you there.
Okay, so now we've said goodnight, or well, they've said goodnight. They come back out. Hey, you guys are still here. So what are they coming out to?
That just made me think of Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
What are you still doing here? Or what's that? What was that movie with Matthew Broderick? The Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He comes out at the very end. What are you still doing here? Go home. You know. Okay, so we got 3 choices here. I think one of the 2 that we were kind of both talking about needs to be the opener. But kind of not sure which, to be honest. I think Born to Raise Hell is probably the best way to start it off.
I'm in agreement with that one. I think Born to Raise Hell would definitely be the one to open up the encore, and then we're going to follow it with Trigger.
Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking. Ending things off with We Are Motorhead, wrapping things up in a similar way to Iron Maiden, when they play Iron Maiden at the end of their sets sometimes.
Exactly. You can't have a shitty song if it's going to be the name of your band.
Yeah.
It did take them a long time to write this song, though.
Well, I mean, they had Motorhead, right?
Oh, that's true.
But
that wasn't a Motorhead song.
Which, well, yeah, it's a Hawkwind song technically, but it was written by Lemmy.
Yeah.
And that's where he adopted the name from, was his own song. So, yeah, I get that. But they had a song that represented them and, like the We Are Motorhead, essentially. But at the same time, this one's a really cool, somewhat more defining song.
Yeah, this definitely
we didn't even pick
encapsulates who they are.
Yeah, we didn't even pick Motorhead on our greatest hits, so. Yeah.
Because, the song Motorhead, it's a good song. It's one of those, the cursory greatest hits.
Yeah.
If we made it to 20, maybe that would have made it. Maybe. On the first round. Sort of like a couple of the songs here. But in We Are Motorhead, like I said, it just definitely encapsulates who they are.
At least who they are at this point
Motorhead,
in their career.
The song.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those songs like sometimes bands have a point where they, reach where they don't write any more songs, or at least write any more good songs, because all that people want to hear is that defining aspect of their band, right? Mm-hmm. So, you have some bands that will still continue to persist, and they'll continue to put out good songs. I mean, like we said, there's probably a lot of people listening that haven't heard a lot of these songs, and I hope you check out our playlist when we put it out later. But I think Motorhead continued to put out some good stuff and change and grow, whereas there are other bands that we are going to and have talked about where they reach a cutoff line and that's it. And then there's some that don't ever put anything out again because they kind of live off of those first few years. So, I think We Are Motorhead is one of those songs that represents where they were at their career at that point. And, it's like Motorhead phase 2 in a way, Here we are, we're still here, we're still kicking ass.
Yeah. It's funny, you mentioned, some of the bands that just, kind of rest on their laurels, I guess you want to put it that way. Mm-hmm. And one name came to mind right away. I don't want to name the band.
I'm curious, though.
I don't want to name the band because in reality, they put out music, and up until recently, they had still put out some music, not a lot. And it just wasn't as good as their earlier stuff. But there are other bands that have stopped putting out music altogether.
Like Twisted Sister stopped at a certain point, and then they split up, came back together, and then they were like, "We're not going to write any new music." There's no point.
But they actually wrote a couple new songs. I believe when they reissued "Stay Hungry," or they did they re-recorded it to make it still Hungry. And there was one song on there, that was okay. They're fit into that example that you're talking about. There was a couple others, 80s metal bands from LA area. I don't want to put them down and say like that because they still had a very good career. But what I've noticed is it is mostly from that era, the 80s, glam scene, where a lot of these bands are kind of like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
No one's liking our new stuff. And that's really the way I look at it. And I've said this before. If it was a good song, I don't care what era it's from. If it's a good song, it's still going to be liked by your fans.
True.
The problem is if you think, if that artist think it's a good song, but really in reality it's not, or it's an okay song, the fans are going to know it. The fans are going to sit there and say, yeah, whatever. But all these bands that complain, oh, well, we put out a new song and then all of a sudden, we play the new song and they start going to the bathroom. Well, that's your fault for not writing a great song. Okay. And trying to pass one over on your fans. So that's just my opinion, rant over. That one. Anyhow, so our list for Motorhead's Greatest Hits Volume 2. Our concert set list is as goes, opening up with Walk a Crooked Mile, followed by Smiling Like a Killer. Number 3, God Was Never on Your Side, followed by Overnight Sensation. Then number 5 is I Am the Sword. Number 6, Shoot Out All the Lights, followed by Voices from the War. Number 8 is One More Fucking Time. I just laugh at that title. It's just so weird. In a good way. Don't get me wrong. Number 9, 1,000 Names of God. Number 10, Assassin. Number 11, Don't Let Daddy Kiss Me. And closing out the main set is Civil War. And our encore is Born to Raise Hell, with Trigger in the middle between that and We Are Motorhead finishing off the set. So I like that. And I laugh at One More Fucking Time only because it's just so, when you listen to the song, the way he says it, it's a little emphatic. And just because, that's just one of those words I like to say from time to time. There's a lot of emphasis on that word. So, All right, cool. Well, that's our Greatest Hits Volume 2 for Motorhead. That brings us to our Big Four for this week. And this week, the Big Four is the opposite of the previous one. Now, this is Motorhead covers, so people who have covered Motorhead songs. Okay, and this was a difficult one. And you mentioned to me that you had difficulty. I had difficulty because there's not a lot of people who have actually covered Motorhead songs.
Yeah, I don't know why. Because so many people cite them as like a influence, or I love Motorhead, and it's like you go out there looking and there's really not a lot. There's enough of a list that you can definitely form a Big Four, right? But it took some doing. And the other problem was, you Google it, right? And you're like, covers of Motorhead, and all it brings up is Motorhead covers. I had to really search to find a list that was legitimate, and then going through, tribute albums and stuff like that. And then I almost missed one that I listened to all the time because it's like you're thinking about it, you're trying to figure it out, and you're just like, oh, it's obvious.
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about too, and I'll mention it, or you tell me when you get to it.
Okay. Well, why don't you go first this time?
Okay, no problem. So my Big Four Motorhead covers are as follows. Number 4, Killed by Death by Beast in Black. Pretty interesting cover. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward copy of the original. But, what's his name? Yanis, right?
Yanis, yeah.
He has a really good voice, so there's a big distinguishing difference between Yanis and Lemmy. But it's still, they did a really cool version of Killed by Death, so I like that one. Number 3, Iron Fist from Dublin Death Patrol. Not a lot of people know who Dublin Death Patrol is, but they are a San Francisco band comprised of Chuck Billy and Steve Souza from Chuck Billy from Testament and Steve Souza from Exodus. All right. Number 2.
John Philip Sousa.
So, yeah.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. Okay.
Boom,
Never mind.
boom.
Okay, and number 2 for me is Orgasmatron from Sepultura. That was a song that I almost skipped over myself before I saw it on the list, and that's a killer version. I love the version that Sepultura does. And for me, I kind of had a choice of different songs to pick from because I think I liked them all, but I went with Overkill from Metallica, from the Motorhead EP release from them.
Oh, that's a good list. I mean, yeah, Metallica did, 4 or 5 covers?
I think it was 4.
4? So they do Damage Case?
Overkill, obviously.
So they did Overkill, Damage Case, Stone Dead Forever, and Too Late, Too Late.
Right. So yeah, that was a bunch of good songs to pick from.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was kind of a tough one, but we do definitely have some overlap here. What's funny is we have overlap on one song, but not by the same artist. So my number 4 is Iron Fist by Austrian Death Machine. So if you're not familiar with Austrian Death Machine, it's kind of a parody. It's Tim Lambesis who plays with As I Lay Dying. He also did a project which I've talked about on a previous episode called Pyrithian. And then he has a couple albums that he released under Austrian Death Machine, which he sings like... he does metal growls, but he also sings like Arnold Schwarzenegger. So most of the songs are parodies of something from a Schwarzenegger film. So definitely check that out if you get an opportunity. I know people have mixed feelings on Tim Lambesis, but at the same time, I tend to think, if somebody serves their sentence in the penal system, they're granted a second chance, and that's what we're supposed to do, right? So mixed feelings aside, I still enjoy their music. So Iron Fist is my number 4. My number 3, I think, was your number 4, Beast in Black, Killed by Death. This was the one I almost missed, and I'm like, how did I almost miss this? Because I listened to them all the time. But it clicked at like the last second when I was going through all these, and I was like, oh, geez. But Yanis, like you said, has an amazing voice. It's a very different version while being very similar at the same time, just due to the vocal range that he has, etc. So a lot of fun. I think my number 2 is also your number 2. You picked Orgasmatron by Sepultura, right?
Yeah, and that was the one that I almost skipped over. It didn't match. I almost completely forgot about that song. I was like, wait a second, Orgasmatron.
Yeah, no, that's a really good cover. And then there's a couple versions you can find out there, because you can find the live one that they did as well as the studio recording, which is both really good. And then my number 1 was kind of a difficult choice because I really do enjoy what you picked as your number 1 for Metallica Overkill. But I think the one that really drove it home for me when I was listening to this way back in the day was Damage Case from Metallica. Something about the way that they played it, I just really liked, and I think that's the one that made me want to go out and find the Overkill album.
I can see that.
But I liked all of them. I mean, Stone Dead Forever, I think, was on my Greatest Hits Volume 1 choice, so I'm a big fan of that one. Too Late, Too Late, I think is all right. It's not as good, but they did. You haven't heard Garage Days Revisited, or not Garage Days Revisited. If you haven't heard Garage Incorporated, that does have 2 CDs on it. It has like their covers and stuff on the second one from the early days, and then I think the first CD is newer stuff that they recorded around that time, like 1998, right?
Yeah.
So the second one was all their EPs and stuff kind of combined, and then the very end was 4 covers of Motorhead, which are all good. So definitely check that out. But my favorite, like I said, was Damage Case.
Definitely. It's funny because they had the tendency now, Metallica, they didn't release it as an EP or anything like that. I think they did release 4 out of 5 songs in one album, but they did 5 Ramones covers right after Saint Anger came out. That was part of the Saint Anger sessions, I guess you could say. And so for one of the singles from one, I think it was The Unnamed Feeling, they put out 4 out of 5. And to get the 5th one, you had kind of, they gave out the singles, like, single A, single B, like part 1, part 2 type of thing for one song. And if you put them all together, you get all 5 songs. But they have this tendency to block a bunch from one band now all of a sudden. But anyway, that's cool. All right, well, I like your list. I kind of knew about the Austrian Death Machine cover, but I somehow glossed over it. And then Killed by Death by Beast in Black's really cool song. I like Orgasmatron, obviously. And
let's be honest, Austrian Death Machine is kind of a niche group. Like, if you're not a fan of Arnold Schwarzenegger, you're not going to like it.
and pretty much Overkill or Damaged Case, Metallica doing those Motorhead covers. I mean, they did them all good. I think the Too Late, what you were kind of, it's more playful almost. And so it's a good cover, but there's not a lot to sit there and say, oh yeah, it's an awesome cover. But cool. I like your list a lot. I thought that was pretty good. All right, well, that's our Big 4 Motorhead covers, and that's the end of this episode. So remember, if you liked what you heard and want to hear us some more, check us out wherever you get your podcasts and click the subscribe button, and bam, there we are every week.
That's right. And don't forget to leave us a message on Facebook at Debating Metal Podcast and on Instagram and Twitter at Debating Metal. Be sure to catch us on YouTube and leave us a comment or send us an email to debatingmetal@gmail.com. If you use Spotify, check out our playlist from all our Greatest Hits episode, including the one today. We'll have that up pretty soon. And remember to tune into the next episode where we spark up another exciting metal debate. On behalf of Kenneth and myself, stay safe, and remember, always turn it up to 11.
See ya.